Friedrich Nietzsche's New Philosophy of Night and Nature. Introduction. The first thing one notices when attempting to read Friedrich Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil is how difficult his style of writing is to understand. His use of language seems very compact, and reading becomes a very slow process. After picking up Beyond Good and Evil the first time, I was only able to gather his thematic idea concerning the cultural relativity of morals. I ceased reading it after comprehending the theme because the writing style was so thick and complex, and it didn't make for a pleasant reading diversion. Nietzsche's way of writing is what you expect from a philosopher. It is subtle and densely combined. He doesn't seem to mind very much the fact that his style isn't very pleasing or entertaining. It is only later that you come to understand that this surface impression isn't really correct. After much perusal, you finally get the hang of it and begin reading each numbered paragraph more than once. Yet, still, this makes for an intensive and laborious reading process. So you set it aside for a while and move on to something a bit less fatiguing. Then, somewhat later, from somewhere, you are reminded of some idea that you think you may have gotten from Nietzsche. Part of the problem with Nietzsche is that he can be very subtle when he mentions things. He'll say something important and in a brief and glancing way. If he illustrates some idea, he may only give you the top left corner of the picture. And he is suggestive, seems very much so. He doesn't clarify things greatly, or usually give more than what seems to be some thinly linked thematic examples. He makes you think for yourself a lot. You get the feeling that you're arriving at the more important stuff only after much curiosity. You say. That seems like a sort of odd phrase or thought. Often, you find yourself thinking something or another such as this. A good example of Nietzsche's casual, curious, and complex style is to be found in the preface to Beyond Good and Evil. A reader has to think hard and critically to even get at the point of his introduction. Nietzsche doesn't grab you by the shoulders and then give you a shake. He lets you ponder at it slowly on your own, and after some reflection upon what he does tell you. That this is Nietzsche's style and method can be seen in his introduction to Beyond Good and Evil. He doesn't come right out and give you the main philosophical theorem that he is describing and criticizing in its entirety. No, that might be easy. Instead, he only gives you a part of it, the more traditional, well-recognized portion. He tells the reader that the dogmatist error of philosophy is, namely, Plato's invention of pure spirit and the good in itself. Then he calls it this nightmare. He does not, however, give you the part of Plato's theorem that he is specifically disputing and blaming for the nightmare. It is this important, unsound part of Plato's theory that he leaves unmentioned, left for the reader to deduce. So, what is the complete theoretical statement he is debating in Beyond Good and Evil? It is not Plato's idea of pure spirit and the good in itself, but the part he only suggests to the reader, the unfollowing part of Plato's theory that he really despises. The complete philosophical statement of Plato's that is in question and makes up the real theme for Beyond Good and Evil is this: Spirit is pure and good. Nature is material and bad. That is, when it is reduced to its most simplistic and fundamental statement. Nietzsche makes this clear to the discerning reader when he discusses the very inversion of truth and the denial of perspective, the fundamental condition of life, to speak of spirit and the good as Plato spoke of them. In other words, the condition of life, that is, nature itself, may be seen with the right perspective to have a high worth that we have denied ever since the days of Plato. He makes this clear with the phrase, as Plato spoke of them. So, it was not the spirit and the good themselves that Nietzsche questioned as being dubious, but only the perspective within which they were seen. And this was a delusive perspective that denied the inherent worth of nature itself. And the somewhat humorous thing is that Nietzsche gives you this vital thematic theorem in such a curious and circumspect way that he has. He doesn't tell you directly. Instead, he lets you gather it in from all the images of the picture. He suggests to the reader a lot of top left corners to the total painting, as if they were seen by a collection of amphibians, in what he later describes as a frog perspective. As an aside, it reminds me, that is Nietzsche's style of perspective, of an old 70s horror flick entitled Frogs. Well, you get the picture, I hope. Arrgh!